Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UE's Liberty as it moved through space toward the massive alien station. The station was bigger than any city on Earth. It spun slowly around a giant gas planet that looked like Jupiter, but with purple clouds instead of brown ones. Jake had been in space for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The station stretched for hundreds of miles in every direction. Thousands of alien ships moved around it like insects around a hive. Some ships were long and thin like needles. Others were round like balls. A few looked like they were made of crystal and light. "Captain, we are getting a message from the station," said Lieutenant Amy Clark from her position at the communications desk. "They want us to dock at Bay 712. Jake nodded. He looked around the bridge at his crew. They all looked nervous. This was humanity's first time meeting the Galactic Council. Earth had only learned to travel faster than light 20 years ago. Before that, humans thought they were alone in the universe. "Take us in slowly," Jake told his pilot. "Follow their instructions exactly." Standing next to Jake was Lisa Hamilton, Earth's best diplomat. She was a small woman with gray hair who had spent years learning about alien cultures. Next to her stood Colonel Ryan Blake, a big man with scars on his face from old battles. He was there to protect the humans if things went wrong. "Remember," Lisa said quietly, "we are here to listen. Earth wants to join the galactic community peacefully." Colonel Blake made a grunt sound. "These aliens have been ruling the galaxy for 50,000 years. They probably think we are just another primitive species to order around." Jake hoped Blake was wrong, but he had a bad feeling in his stomach. The reports from other worlds were not good. Every species that joined the Council had to pay tribute. They had to give up resources, people, and freedom. The Liberty docked with a loud clang. Jake felt the artificial gravity shift slightly as the two ships connected. Through the porthole, he could see alien beings moving around in the docking bay. Some walked on two legs like humans. Others crawled on many legs. One looked like a giant floating jellyfish. "Time to go," Jake said. The three humans walked through the airlock into the alien station. The air smelled strange, like flowers, mixed with metal. The corridor was huge, built for beings much larger than humans. Jake felt very small. An alien approached them. It looked like a person made of blue crystal that glowed from inside. When it spoke, the words came from a small device on its chest that translated the sounds into English. "I am Guide Kelmer. Follow me to the council chamber. Do not touch anything. Do not speak unless spoken to." They walked for what felt like miles through corridors filled with aliens. Jake saw creatures that looked like giant spiders talking to beings made of living rock. Flying creatures with wings like butterflies moved through the air above their heads. He had never imagined so many different forms of life could exist. Finally, they reached the council chamber. Jake's mouth fell open. The room was so big that clouds formed near the ceiling. 12 massive thrones sat in a circle, each one holding a different alien being. Some of the council members were so large that Jake could not see their entire bodies. The crystal being who had guided them pointed to a small platform in the center of the room. "Stand there. Do not move." Jake, Lisa, and Colonel Blake walked to the platform. Jake felt like an ant standing in front of giants. The platform rose slowly into the air until they were level with the council members' faces. The largest throne held a being that looked like a mountain made of crystal. When it spoke, its voice boomed through the chamber like thunder. "I am High Arbiter Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire. You represent the species called humans from the planet Earth." "Yes," Lisa said, stepping forward. "I am Lisa Hamilton, speaking. For the United Earth Government. We are honored to meet the Galactic Council." "Honor is not required," Veltar said coldly. You are here to receive the standard terms for new species joining our galaxy. Jake did not like the way Veltar said standard terms. It sounded like they had no choice in the matter. Earth will provide 40% of all industrial output to the Council, Veltar continued. 20% of your population will serve. As workers on Council worlds, your military will be disbanded. Council ships will be stationed in your system to ensure compliance. Lisa's face went pale. High Arbiter, those terms would destroy our civilization. Surely we can negotiate something more reasonable. Several of the council members made sounds that might have been laughter. A snake-like being with 6 arms spoke. Next, all species say the same thing at first. You will learn to accept your place in the galactic order. What if we refuse? Colonel Blake asked suddenly. The chamber became completely silent. Veltar's crystal body glowed brighter. Refusal results in pacification protocols. Your worlds would be rendered uninhabitable as an example to others. We have done this to 47 species over the past 10,000 years. Jake felt his blood turn cold. They were talking about destroying Earth and everyone on it. You have 30 standard galactic days to prepare for compliance, Veltar said. Guide Kelmer will return you to your ship. This audience is concluded. The platform lowered quickly. Jake felt dizzy from the speed and from what he had just heard. As they walked back through the corridors, none of the humans spoke. They were all thinking the same thing. The Council expected Earth to become a slave world. Humans would work for aliens for the rest of time, or die fighting. Back on the Liberty, Jake gave the order to leave immediately. As the ship pulled away from the station, he looked back at the massive structure. Somewhere inside, the Council. Members were probably already planning how to divide up Earth's resources. Set course for Earth, maximum speed, Jake ordered. What are we going to tell them? Lisa asked quietly. Jake stared out at the stars. In 30 days, everything would change forever. We tell them the truth, he said. And then we let Earth decide if we fight or surrender. The Liberty jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying news that would change human history. The emergency meeting room in Geneva was packed with the most powerful people on Earth. President Karen Foster sat at the head of the long table, her face serious as she listened to Captain Morrison's report. Around the table sat military leaders, scientists and government officials from every nation on Earth. Admiral Scott Davis, the head of Earth's space fleet, drummed his fingers on the table as Jake finished explaining what had happened at the Council station. Next to him, General Amy Rodriguez of the Colonial Marines stared at the holographic display showing Earth's current military strength. So let me understand this correctly, said Economic Minister Paul Chung. These aliens want 40% of everything we make, plus 20% of our people as slaves, or they will destroy our entire planet. That is correct, Lisa Hamilton said. She still looked pale from the meeting with the Council. They have done this to dozens of other species. They see it as normal. Minister Chong shook his head. We have to negotiate. Maybe we can offer them something else. Raw materials instead of people. Technology instead of such a large percentage of our output. You did not see them, Colonel Blake said firmly. They do not negotiate. They give orders and expect obedience. They have been doing this for 50,000 years. President Foster looked around the table. What are our military options, Admiral? Admiral Davis activated the holographic display. It showed the positions of Earth's space forces throughout the solar system. We have 230 ships of various sizes. 50 of them are true warships. The rest are converted cargo. Vessels and mining ships with weapons attached. And they have? The President asked. Unknown, but probably thousands of ships. Maybe tens of thousands. Davis paused. However, we do have some advantages they might not expect. Dr. Elena Brooks, the head of Advanced Weapons Research, stood up. She was a small woman with wild hair who rarely left her laboratory. Mr. President, I need to tell you about Project Prometheus. The room became quiet. Even Admiral Davis looked surprised. For the past 5 years, we have been studying alien technology recovered from crashed ships and abandoned outposts found by our exploration teams, Dr. Brooks said. We have made some interesting discoveries. She activated her own holographic display. It showed technical drawings of strange-looking weapons and devices. We have developed plasma cannons that are more powerful than anything our exploration teams have encountered. We have created shield generators that can protect our ships from energy weapons. Most importantly, we have built quantum torpedoes that can punch through any armor we have tested. General Rodriguez leaned forward. How many of these weapons do we have currently? About 50 plasma cannon systems and 20 shield generators. But we can make more quickly if we convert our entire industrial base to weapons production. Economic Minister Chong looked worried. The cost would be enormous. We would have to stop making everything else. The cost of surrender would be higher, Admiral Davis said firmly. If we give them what they want, humanity ceases to exist as a free species. President Foster was quiet for a long moment. She looked at each person around the table, thinking about the choice they faced. What about our colonies? She asked. Captain Morrison had been silent, but now he spoke up. I have been in contact with the colonial governors. New Texas, Pittsburgh Prime, and the other frontier worlds are already preparing for war. They are converting their mining equipment into weapons factories and evacuating civilian populations to safer areas. The colonies want to fight? Minister Chong asked, surprised. The colonies know what freedom is worth, General Rodriguez said. They carved their homes out of empty space and hostile worlds. They will not give up without a fight. On the frontier world of New Texas, Colonial Administrator Jake Bennett was doing exactly what Captain Morrison described. The main settlement looked like an old western town, but with spacecraft instead of horses and plasma rifles, instead of 6-dash shooters. Jake stood in the middle of the town square, addressing the colonists who had gathered to hear the news from Earth. The aliens want to make us slaves, he said simply. Earth is deciding what to do, but we do not need to wait for their decision. We know what we are going to do. The crowd murmured agreement. These were tough people who had left Earth to build new lives on dangerous worlds. They had fought hostile environments, equipment failures, and isolation. They were not afraid of aliens. Start moving the families to the underground shelters, Jake continued. Convert the mining lasers to weapons. Every ship gets armed, even the cargo haulers. If these council aliens want New Texas, they will have to take it from our cold, dead hands. Back on Earth, the debate in the emergency session continued for hours. Some officials argued for compromise. Others demanded immediate military preparation. Finally, President Foster called for a vote. All in favor of rejecting the Council's demands and preparing for military resistance? Hands rose around the table. Admiral Davis, General Rodriguez, Dr. Brooks, Captain Morrison, Colonel Blake, and many others voted yes. All in favor of attempting further negotiations? Only Economic Minister Chong and 2 other officials raised their hands. President Foster nodded. The decision is made. We fight. The room erupted in activity. Admiral Davis began issuing orders to fleet commanders throughout the solar system. General Rodriguez started mobilizing the colonial marines. Dr. Brooks received unlimited funding and resources for weapons production. How long do we have? President Foster asked. 27 days until the deadline, Lisa Hamilton said. But they might come early if they suspect we are preparing to resist. President Foster turned to Admiral Davis. How long to get our fleet ready for battle? 2 weeks for basic preparations. 4 weeks for optimal readiness. Then we better hope they stick to their timeline. As the meeting broke up, Captain Morrison approached the president. Ma'am, you should know that I volunteered to carry RR. Response back to the council station. What response? She asked. Morrison smiled grimly. A simple message. Earth declines their generous offer and looks forward to future diplomatic relations between equals. President Foster raised an eyebrow. That is rather polite for a declaration of war. Sometimes the most polite words carry the sharpest blades. Morrison replied. That night, across human space, the greatest military mobilization in history began. Shipyards that normally built cargo vessels started building warships. Factories that made consumer goods switched to producing weapons and armor. Training facilities that prepared people for peaceful space exploration began teaching combat tactics. On Luna, workers installed Dr. Brooks' new plasma cannons on the heavy cruiser, UES Defiance. In the asteroid belt, miners learned how to convert their rock-cutting equipment into ship-killing weapons. On Mars, the Colonial Marine Training Center expanded from one facility to 20. The message went out to every human settlement, from the research stations around Jupiter to the mining colonies beyond Pluto. Earth was going to war. Not everyone was happy about the decision. Some families tried to flee to distant colonies. Some politicians called for President Foster's removal. Some business leaders worried about the economic impact. But most humans felt something they had not felt in generations. Unity. For the first time since leaving Earth, all of humanity had a common enemy and a common cause. The countdown to war had begun. The Council's response came faster than anyone expected. Only 3 days after Captain Morrison delivered Earth's refusal, long-range sensors detected a massive alien fleet entering the outer edges of the solar system. Admiral Davis stood in the awe. Command Center on Luna, studying the sensor readings with growing concern. Fleet Commander Rachel Stone stood beside him, her face pale as she counted the enemy contacts. 300 ships, she said quietly. Some of them are bigger than anything we have ever built. This is the 5th Pacification Fleet, reported Lieutenant Ben Hayes from the intelligence station. According to our databases, they have destroyed 43 rebellious worlds over the past 1,000 years. They are commanded by War Prince Sitar of the Hegemony. Admiral Davis had read about War Prince Sitar. The reptilian alien was famous throughout the galaxy for his brutal efficiency. He did not just defeat enemies, he made examples of them that other species would remember for generations. How long until they reach Earth? Davis asked. At their current speed, 8 days. Hayes replied. Davis activated the communication system. All fleet commanders, this is Admiral Davis. Execute. Plan Bravo immediately. I repeat, execute Plan Bravo. Throughout the solar system, human ships began moving to predetermined positions. This was not going to be a traditional battle, with 2 fleets facing each other in open space. The humans were going to use every advantage they could find. Captain Alex Turner commanded the Ranger Squadron, 12 small, fast ships designed for hit-and-run attacks. His ships were hiding in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, powered down and drifting like rocks. Remember, Turner told his pilots over the secure channel, we are not trying to win a fair fight. We are trying to survive long enough to hurt them badly. Lieutenant Amy Clark was one of Turner's best pilots. She had grown up on a frontier world where quick thinking meant the difference between life and death. Now she was applying those same skills to space combat. What if their ships are too tough for our weapons? Asked Lieutenant Jim Parker, the youngest pilot in the squadron. Then we ram them, Clark said simply. A ship moving at 10% light. Speed will hurt anything it hits, no matter how strong their armor is. On Earth, Dr. Brooks worked around the clock in her laboratory, making final adjustments to the new weapon systems. She had not slept in 3 days, surviving on coffee and determination. "The quantum torpedoes are ready," she told her assistant, Dr. Mark Williams, "but we only have 60 of them. Once they are gone, we will have to rely on the plasma cannons." "Will 60 be enough?" Williams asked. Brooks looked at the tactical displays showing the size of the approaching enemy fleet. "It will have to be." Meanwhile, on the heavy cruiser Hughes Defiance, Captain Morrison was training his crew for the battle of their lives. Sergeant Major Carlos Rivera, a veteran of the colonial wars, was teaching the Marines how to fight in the cramped corridors of alien ships. "Their ships are built for beings larger than us," Rivera explained as he led a practice boarding party through a mock-up of a council vessel. "That means their corridors are wide, but their doors and control panels are high up. Use that. Stay low, move fast, and hit them where they do not expect." Private Lisa Carter, fresh out of training, looked nervous. "Sergeant, what if we cannot understand their technology?" "Then we blow it up," Rivera said with a grin. "Sometimes the best way to understand alien technology is to watch how it breaks." The human strategy was unlike anything the Council had ever faced. Most species fought by the rules of space warfare that had been established over thousands of years. Fleets would meet in open space, exchange fire at long range, and the side with better ships and more experience would win. Humans were going to break every rule in the book. Colonel Lisa Park, the military strategist who had helped design the battle plan, explained it to a group of ship captains. "The Council expects us to fight like civilized beings," she said. "They expect formation flying, honor in combat, and predictable tactics. Instead, we are going to fight like pirates, terrorists, and desperate humans with nothing to lose." The plan was called Swarm and Sting. Human ships would attack from multiple directions at once, hit hard, and run away before the enemy could respond. They would use asteroids for cover, hide in radiation fields that confused alien sensors, and attack when the enemy least expected it. "It is not honorable," Park admitted, "but honor does not matter if your species is extinct." As the days passed, the alien fleet moved steadily closer to Earth. Their ships maintained perfect formation, moving like a single organism through space. War Prince Siktar sent regular broadcasts demanding Earth's immediate surrender. "Your resistance is pointless," the reptilian commander said in his latest message. "Submit now, and only half your population will be enslaved. Continue to resist, and we will take everyone." President Foster's response was broadcast throughout human space. "Earth does not negotiate with slavers." On the 6th day, the first skirmish occurred. Captain Turner's Rangers attacked a Council scouting force near Neptune. The aliens had sent 6 ships to map the outer system defenses. They found 12 human fighters waiting for them. The battle lasted only 10 minutes. The Council ships were larger and more powerful, but they moved in predictable patterns. The human fighters darted between them like angry wasps, firing quantum torpedoes at point-blank range. When the smoke cleared, 4 Council ships were destroyed, and 2 were badly damaged. The humans lost 3 fighters, but the surviving pilots brought back valuable intelligence about enemy shields and weapons. "Their shields are strong against energy weapons, but weak against physical impact," Turner reported to Admiral Davis. "The quantum torpedoes work, but we need to get close to use them effectively." War Prince Star was not pleased by the loss of his scouts. He had expected the primitive humans to cower when they saw his mighty fleet. Instead, they had struck first blood. "Advance the main fleet," he ordered his subordinates. "These mammals need to learn the price of defying the Council." On Earth, the final preparations were complete. Every human ship that could fly was armed and ready for battle. The orbital defense platforms around Earth bristled with new plasma cannons. Deep space sensors tracked the approaching enemy fleet dot in homes and bunkers across the planet. Families said goodbye to their sons and daughters, heading off to war. Many of them would not return, but they all knew what they were fighting for. Admiral Davis stood on the bridge of his flagship, the UES Vengeance, watching the tactical display. The enemy fleet would reach Jupiter in 2 days. That was where the real battle would begin. All ships report ready for combat, Fleet Commander Stone announced. Davis nodded. In 2 days, humanity would either win its freedom or die trying. Signal. All commanders, he said. Execute Phase 2 of the battle plan. It is time to show these aliens what humans do to bullies. The greatest space battle in human history was about to begin. The battle began at Neptune with a flash of light that could be seen from the moons of Jupiter. Captain Turner's Rangers had been waiting in the shadows of the ice giant's rings when the Council's advance guard arrived. Remember, hit fast and get out, Turner said over the comm as his 12 fighters powered up their engines. We are not here to win. We are here to make them angry. Lieutenant Amy Clark rolled her fighter out from behind a chunk of ice the size of a building. Her target was a Council cruiser that looked like a giant metal fish with glowing fins. She fired 2 quantum torpedoes and immediately dove toward Neptune's atmosphere. The torpedoes hit the alien ship's side, punching through shields that had protected Council vessels for centuries. The cruiser lurched to one side, trailing atmosphere from a massive hole in its hull. "Direct hit!" Clark shouted. "Their shields cannot stop our torpedoes." All around Neptune's orbit, human fighters struck at the alien scouts. The Council ships tried to respond, but the humans were already gone, hiding in radiation fields and asteroid clusters where alien sensors could not track them. In 10 minutes, the skirmish was over. 5 Council ships were destroyed or badly damaged. The humans lost only 2 fighters, though Lieutenant Jim Parker's ship was so damaged he had to eject. He was picked up by a rescue shuttle and lived to fight another day. War Prince Siktar received the news while sitting on the bridge of his flagship, a massive dreadnought called the Subjugator. The reptilian commander's yellow eyes glowed with anger as he watched the battle recordings. How did primitive mammals penetrate our shields? He demanded. His tactical officer, a 6-armed spider-like being, studied the data. Their weapons use quantum disruption technology. We have never encountered it before. No matter, Star hissed. Advance the main fleet. We will crush them with overwhelming force. The Council's 5th Pacification Fleet moved toward Jupiter. Like a slow-moving storm, 300 ships in perfect formation, bristling with weapons that had conquered dozens of worlds. War Prince Siktar was confident that once the humans saw his full strength, they would surrender immediately. He was wrong. Admiral Davis watched the enemy fleet's approach from the command center on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. Around him, tactical officers plotted firing solutions while communications specialists coordinated with ships scattered throughout the Jupiter system. Enemy fleet will reach Jupiter in 6 hours, reported Commander Rachel Stone. All human forces are in position. Davis nodded. This was the moment everything depended on. The human fleet was hidden among Jupiter's 79 moons, powered down and waiting. When the Council fleet arrived, they would find what appeared to be an empty system. Signal all ships, Davis ordered. Execute Operation Mongoose. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the UEC Defiance, hidden behind the moon Ganymede. His ship was one of the new Titan-class battleships, built specifically for this battle. Its armor was thicker than any human ship had ever carried, and its plasma cannons were powerful enough to crack a moon. All hands, battle stations, Morrison announced over the ship's intercom. This is what we trained for. Make every shot count. Sergeant Major Rivera was in the Marine Bay, checking his equipment one final time. Around him, 200 Marines prepared for what might be the last battle of their lives. "Listen up," Rivera told his troops. "We are going to board an alien ship and capture their commander. It sounds impossible, and it probably is, but impossible things are what humans do best." The Council fleet arrived at Jupiter exactly on schedule. War Prince Star expected to find human ships waiting in formation, ready for an honorable battle. Instead, his sensors showed empty space. "Where are they?" he demanded. "Unknown, War Prince," replied his sensor officer. "We detect no ships in the immediate area." Star was suspicious, but he could not locate the human fleet. He decided to advance toward the inner system, where Earth's main defenses waited. That was when Admiral Davis sprang his trap. "All ships, execute Mongoose," Davis broadcast on all frequencies. Suddenly, Jupiter's moons came alive with light. Hidden human ships powered up their engines and weapons simultaneously. From behind Io Europa, Ganymede, and dozens of smaller moons, the human fleet emerged like wolves attacking a herd. The Council fleet found itself surrounded by enemies attacking from every direction at once. Their perfect formation became a liability as human ships darted between the massive alien vessels, firing quantum torpedoes at point-blank range. Captain Stone led a squadron of destroyers in a diving attack on the Council's left flank. Her ships, small and fast, slipped between the enemy dreadnoughts like fish swimming between whales. "Target their weapon systems," Stone ordered. "Cripple them so they cannot fight back." The human destroyers fired their plasma cannons in coordinated volleys. Bright beams of energy struck alien ships, melting armor and destroying weapon mounts. The Council fleet tried to respond, but their ships were too big and slow to hit the darting human vessels. Meanwhile, Captain Morrison brought the UES Defiance and 5 other battleships in a direct assault on the enemy center. These ships were too large to dodge, so they relied on heavy armor and powerful shields to survive the alien counterattack. "All forward batteries fire," Morrison commanded. The Titan-class battleships unleashed their full firepower. Quantum torpedoes and plasma cannon fire hammered the Council dreadnoughts. For the first time in 1,000 years, Council ships were taking serious damage in battle. War Prince Scar's flagship shook under the impact of human weapons. Sparks flew from control panels as the ship's systems overloaded. "Impossible." The reptilian commander snarled. "How are they hurting us?" The battle raged for 3 hours. Human ships attacked from every angle, using tactics the Council had never encountered. Some human captains rammed their ships into alien vessels when their weapons ran out. Others used their ships' drives as weapons, cooking enemy ships with plasma exhaust. The turning point came when Captain Morrison led a desperate boarding action against Star's flagship. The U's Defiance managed to get close enough to dock with the alien dreadnought's hull. "Go, go, go," Sergeant Major Rivera shouted as he led his Marines through the airlock. The alien ship's corridors were huge, designed for beings much larger than humans. But the Marines used this to their advantage, staying low and moving through spaces the aliens could not reach. They fought through corridors filled with smoke and sparks, past alien crew members who had never faced human soldiers in combat. Rivera's Marines moved like ghosts, appearing from unexpected directions and disappearing before the aliens could respond. Finally, they reached the bridge. War Prince Esktar stood 8 feet tall, covered in scales and armed with energy weapons. But he had never fought humans before. The battle for the bridge lasted only minutes. When it was over, War Prince Estar was Rivera's prisoner, and the Council's command ship was under human control. "Council fleet, this is Admiral Davis," the human commander broadcast on all frequencies. Your war prince has been captured. You have 10 minutes to surrender or withdraw from our system. The remaining council ships, leaderless and demoralized, chose to retreat. They had lost over half their fleet to a species they had dismissed as primitive. It was the first military defeat in council history. As the alien ships limped away from Jupiter, the human fleet regrouped to count their losses. 60 human ships had been destroyed, and thousands of brave men and women had died. But they had won. Admiral Davis stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking out at the wreckage floating in Jupiter's orbit. In the distance, Earth shone like a blue jewel, free and unconquered. "Signal Earth," he told his communications officer. "Tell them we won." For the first time in galactic history, a species had successfully resisted the Council's demands. News would spread throughout the galaxy like wildfire, inspiring rebellions on dozens of worlds. The age of Council dominance was ending. The age of human resistance had begun. 3 months after the Battle of Sol, Captain Morrison stood once again on the bridge of a human ship approaching the Council station. But this time, everything was different. The U's Defiance led a fleet of 50 human warships through space toward the massive alien structure. Behind Morrison's flagship came new Titan-class battleships, fast destroyers, and support vessels carrying diplomats, scientists, and the most important passenger of all, War Prince Histar, still inhuman. Custody. "Sir, we are receiving multiple communications from the station," reported Lieutenant Clark, who had survived the battle at Jupiter and earned a promotion. "Some of them sound like surrender offers." Morrison smiled grimly. "Tell them we will. Speak only to High Arbiter Veltar. We have business to finish." The galaxy had changed dramatically since humanity's victory. News of the Council's defeat had spread faster than anyone expected. Within weeks, rebellions had broken out on 37 different worlds. Species that had served the Council for thousands of years suddenly remembered what freedom felt like. On Earth, President Foster was preparing for the most important diplomatic mission in human history. She sat in her office with Admiral Davis, who now commanded the largest space fleet in human history. "The reports from our ambassadors are encouraging," Foster said, reading from a tablet. "The Altarian Republic has declared independence. Centauri Collective has expelled all Council overseers. Even some of the smaller Council species are asking to negotiate new relationships." Admiral Davis nodded. "Our victory proved that the Council is not invincible, but it also made us a target. We need to be careful about what comes next." Dr. Brooks had been working around the clock since the battle, reverse engineering captured Council technology. Her laboratory was filled with alien devices that had been considered impossible just months before. "We have made incredible progress," she told President Foster during a secure video call. "Their faster-than-light communication system is far superior to ours. Their energy weapons are more efficient than anything we imagined. And their manufacturing technology could revolutionize our industry." "How long until we can use these advances?" Foster asked. "Some improvements are already being implemented. Our new ships are twice as fast as the old ones. Our weapons are 3 times more powerful. In a year, the human fleet will be the most advanced in the galaxy." Meanwhile, on dozens of worlds throughout the galaxy, species that had never heard of Earth were learning about the humans who had defeated the mighty Council. The stories grew with each telling. On the water world of Aquatica, the dolphin-like swimmers spoke of brave mammals who fought giant monsters in the void between stars. On the desert planet Zarian, the insect-like hive told tales of small warriors who could defeat enemies 100 times their size. But the most important changes were happening on the Council station itself. High Arbiter Veltar sat in his crystal throne, but for the first time in 50,000 years, he was not in complete control of the galaxy. "The rebellions are spreading. reported Sub-Arbiter Keshlan, a floating jellyfish-like being. We have lost contact with 47 systems. Several council members are requesting permission to negotiate with the rebels. Veltar's crystal. Body dimmed with what humans might recognize as depression. How did this happen? We have ruled for millennia without serious challenge. The humans showed that we can be defeated, Keshlan replied. Once that knowledge spread, our authority began to crumble. When the human fleet arrived at the council station, they were met by a very different reception than Captain Morrison had received months earlier. Instead of being treated as primitives, they were escorted with full honors to the main docking bay. President Foster, Admiral Davis, and Captain Morrison walked through corridors that seemed less impressive than before. The same aliens who had once ignored humans now watched them with respect and fear. In the great council chamber, only 8 of the 12 thrones were occupied. 4 council species had withdrawn from the station to deal with rebellions in their own territories. High Arbiter Veltar looked smaller than Morrison remembered. The great crystal being's glow was noticeably dimmer. President Foster of Earth, Veltar said formally, you have requested this audience. Foster stepped forward confidently. Behind her, Admiral Davis and the captured War Prince Scar served as reminders of humanity's military victory. High Arbiter, we come to discuss the future of the galaxy. The old system of tribute and slavery is ending. The question is whether it ends peacefully or violently. Veltar was silent for a long moment. What do you propose? Foster activated a holographic display showing a map of the galaxy. Green areas showed worlds that had declared independence. Red areas showed worlds still under council control. The green areas were growing rapidly. We proposed the dissolution of the Galactic Council and the creation of a new organization, the Free Worlds Alliance. Membership would be voluntary. Trade would be based on mutual benefit, not tribute. Military cooperation would be for defense, not conquest. Several council members made sounds of outrage, but Veltar raised a crystal appendage for silence. And if we refuse? He asked. Admiral Davis stepped forward. Then the rebellions continue. More worlds declare independence. Eventually, you rule over empty space. War Prince Sktar, speaking for the first time since his capture, added his voice. The humans fight differently than anyone we have faced. They do not follow the rules. They cannot be predicted. They will never stop. Foster nodded. We are offering you a choice. Join us in building something better, or become irrelevant as the galaxy moves forward without you. The debate that followed lasted for hours. Some council members argued for trying to crush the rebellions by force. Others suggested negotiating separate peace deals with different rebel groups. But gradually, they all came to the same conclusion. The old way was ending. The only question was how to manage the transition. We need guarantees, Veltar said finally. Protection for council worlds that wish to maintain their current governments. Trade agreements that respect our established economic interests. Agreed, Foster said. But those protections extend to all Alliance members. No species will be forced to change their internal government, but no species will be allowed to enslave others. 3 weeks later, the Treaty of Terra was signed aboard. The human flagship U.S. Liberty, the same ship that had carried Morrison to his first meeting with the Council. Representatives from over 60 species attended the ceremony. The signing took place in the ship's main hangar, which had been converted into a ceremonial hall. President Foster sat at a simple table alongside High Arbiter Veltar and representatives from dozens of newly free worlds. Today marks the end of one era and the beginning of another, Foster said as she signed the treaty. For 50,000 years, the galaxy has been ruled by force and fear. Today, we choose cooperation and freedom. Admiral Davis was named the first Supreme Commander of the Alliance Defense Force. His job would be to protect member worlds from external threats while preventing any single species from dominating the others. Captain Morrison became Earth's first ambassador to the Free Worlds Alliance. His office would be on Terra Station, a new diplomatic facility being built in neutral space between Earth and the former Council territories. Dr. Brooks was appointed head of the Alliance Technology Exchange, where species would share scientific advances for the benefit of all members. The ceremony concluded with representatives from every member species placing their hands, claws, tentacles, or other appendages on a crystal sphere that symbolized galactic unity. But the real celebration happened later in the ship's observation deck. President Foster stood looking out at the stars, thinking about how much had changed. Admiral Davis joined her at the window. "Are you worried about the future?" he asked. Foster smiled. "Of course. We are taking responsibility for an entire galaxy. But I would rather face an uncertain future as free beings than a certain future as slaves." Through the window, they could see ships from dozens of species working together to build Terra Station. Human engineering teams worked alongside Altarian scientists and Centauri construction workers. Former enemies were becoming friends. "The children," Foster said suddenly. "What about them?" Davis asked. "Look," Foster pointed to a section of the station where a group of young beings from different species were playing together. Human children ran and laughed with young Altarians, Centauri, and even some of the former Council species. "They will grow up in a galaxy where cooperation is normal," Foster continued. "They will not know the fear and hatred that divided us before. They are the real victory." 6 months later, the first Alliance exploration fleet launched toward the unexplored regions of the galaxy. The fleet included ships from 12 different species, commanded by Captain Morrison aboard the UES Horizon. Their mission was simple: to explore new worlds, meet new species, and invite them to join the Alliance as equals rather than subjects. As the fleet jumped to faster than light speed, Morrison thought about the long journey that had brought them to this point. It had started with a simple message: submit or die. Humanity had chosen neither option. Instead, they had chosen to fight for something better. The galaxy was vast, full of wonders and dangers yet to be discovered. But for the first time in 50,000 years,